Glitchbusters would like to know whatever happened to the Captain Planet movie that was being made. Did that project get canned?
It wasn't all that long ago that they announced it, so I wouldn't see why we think it's be canned. I'm not surprised that we haven't heard movement on it yet. The studio's probably very early on in the process still. I mean, they might be getting close now to actually trying to lock down, a director, and I think they already had a writer on board. So I wouldn't be worried about it yet at this point. If we go 3 or 4 more months without hearing anything, then I think we start to raise our eyebrows. But at this point, I'm not terribly surprised we haven't heard anything yet. Dennis?
I don't think it's canceled yet. I would actually rather see Don Cheadle reprise his role as Captain Planet in that. What was it? The Funny or Die sketch?
Stuff. Yeah.
I'd see an hour and a half of that.
All right, what's next?
KM Smarty 23 wants to know, what do you think about the possibility of Blade and Ghost Rider in the MCU, maybe teaming them up with Doctor Strange?
Nope, won't happen. I mean, I don't think it'll happen at all. Blade and Ghost Rider are definitively R-rated characters, and I think the major fan base would want R-rated stuff. And I don't think that fits within the tone that Kevin Feige has set up for the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, unless you really want to neuter those characters and make them more tame, which I don't think the fans want them to do. If anything, I could see them, how Marvel is using some of these characters now on Netflix series, and I don't want to go into the television stuff, but it almost seems like that would be a better home for characters like Blade and Ghost Rider. And I think they're probably going to wait to see how this Daredevil stuff works out with Netflix, and if it works out, I think you'll probably, sometime in the next 5 years, see Blade and Ghost Rider on something like that, but I just don't see them as they are fitting into this universe Kevin Feige so carefully crafted. What do you think?
I don't think they will, because it's the one they have now is more family friendly, and then those are like more R-rated. I think, though, they will kind of make their own kind of mini universe on the side, and say that this is still part of the big universe, but they don't ever cross over with Iron Man or Captain America or Thor or anything like that. They just maybe we'll see some crossover with Daredevil, Punisher, and let's say whatchamacallit, was the last Blade.
Right.
Like maybe those three will cross over with each other.
Possible. Yep. All right. What's next?
Caleb Spatched wants to know, with Robert Redford and Michael Douglas being added to Marvel, what other classic actors would you like to see in Phase 3?
Well, I mean, you already had guys like Anthony Hopkins in there. Basically, I mean, there used to be a day when, the serious actors don't do comic book films. That day is gone. I mean, now big name actors want to do these films because people love them. And you got guys like, I remember talking to Anthony Hopkins on one of the Marvel carpets, and it's like, I have grandkids who love this stuff. They wanted to see Grandpa in this, so all right, I'll do it. I mean, so I think you got a lot of these older veteran actors that probably have a lot of stuff with their kids or their kids' kids. So there's an attraction to that, but also these are huge, big, mega blockbusters. I mean, these are legacy films that you're making. I mean, more people are going to see Robert Redford. Think about this, with the career that Robert Redford has had. More people are going to see him in the new Captain America film than have seen him in any of his other films ever. Think about that for a second. I mean, that's crazy to think about, but it's true, and that's got to be attractive to a guy like Robert Redford. So I think anybody's on the table. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is on the table. I mean, we already see Russell Crowe is in these things. Anybody is totally on the table for coming into a Marvel or a DC film like this. Dennis?
I would say everyone but Daniel Day-Lewis.
I don't think you should write him off.
I'm writing him off. He carefully, he waits forever to pick a movie, so I don't think it's going to be a comic book movie.
He'll be Doctor Strange. No.
but I could see someone like a Robert De Niro or Al Pacino getting into this, in one Marvel or DC. So yeah, someone like that.
All right, what's next?
Victor Stasopoulos wants to know, will we ever see Hannibal Lecter returning to the big screen after the success of the NBC show?
It really depends on the direction of the NBC show. I don't think there are any plans right now for doing another Hannibal film right now, but I don't watch the Hannibal show, but everybody I know who watches it adores it and loves it. if that show continues to build the popularity of the character, you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be looking at bringing Hannibal back to the big screen. But then you're facing, you're doing a television show, you don't have to fill the shoes of Anthony Hopkins because nobody's expecting Anthony Hopkins.
No.
You make a Hannibal movie, you are now filling the shoes of Anthony Hopkins. And that's a little more tricky and a little more challenging, but I think at some point they'll do it.
I haven't seen the TV show yet, but everyone I've talked to as well love it. And they also say that it's very surprising that it's on NBC because they said it's very adult.
I heard it's gruesome.
Very mature, and that it should be on like an FX or HBO or Showtime or something like that. But ratings-wise, I don't think it does very well. I think it does okay, but I don't think it's a ratings hit, so I don't think that's going to be the thing that leads into
We'll see how it evolves.
Exactly.
All right, what's next?
Brandon Barrett wants to know if we think there'll ever be a Mr. and Mrs. Smith 2.
This kind of came up the other day. No, I don't think there will be, but I would love for there to be one. It was a big hit. It was a great, fun film. Obviously, big star power. But both of them now are very, very busy. I mean, you got Angelina Jolie, who is, she's got Maleficent coming out, which looks fantastic. But she's also a filmmaker now. You got Brad Pitt, who just was on the Oscar stage as a filmmaker, as a producer. So now he's acting, producing, running his own little studio. I can't remember the name of his studio, what his shingle is called. It might be something 6, I can't remember. But so you got both these guys really, really busy. And for that reason, I don't think it will happen, but man, I'd be all game for it if they wanted to.
I'd love it if they did it as well, because I really enjoyed the first one. It was directed by Doug Liman, who did the Firstborn movie. And he also did Swingers way back in the day.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Love Swingers.
Let's take 2 more.
All right, Constantine wants to know, hey guys, love the show. What would you say is the most overrated film franchise of all time?
Oh, that's tough.
That's tough. But, okay, here's a disclaimer. Remember, you used the word overrated. Overrated. A lot of people don't understand the meaning of overrated because sometimes you can say something is overrated, but that doesn't mean you're saying something is bad. It just means that I think, if I think something is overrated, that just means I think that it's at a certain level of good, whereas most people think it's really big. And for you to say something is overrated, that means you're going to have the unpopular opinion. Because by definition, if you're saying something is overrated, that means the majority of people thinks it's better than you do. So if you ever say something is overrated and your friends all agree with you, then you don't know what overrated means. Because clearly you've got the wrong definition. For me, one of the most overrated films of all time is Blade Runner. But I know I'm wrong. Because everybody, including all the smartest people I know in the movie industry, love the Blade Runner. So I completely bow and acknowledge that I am so in the minority on that. But for me, it's just a film that never worked, and I've never got the appeal to it, no matter how many times I've watched it. So for me, that's an overrated one. Another one that I think is overrated. You can't get around it. I think The Dark Knight Rises is a horribly overrated film. We saw how widely it won over the original Superman, which is a better movie. But even you look at the critic rating, it's got like a high 80s percent. It's not in the 90s per se, but it's a high 80s critic rating. And Dennis and I were talking about The Dark Knight Rises the other day, and one of my points was it almost feels like Christopher Nolan didn't care about it. It's almost like he was already looking forward to doing Interstellar. It's like he had this idea for Interstellar, and it's like his mind was totally on Interstellar when he was making The Batman Begins. To me, it was such a step down from the brilliance of The Dark Knight. Just so many major, massive plot holes and total lack of logic to it, and a Batman movie where we got maybe 20 minutes of Batman, and it's just a lot of things that I thought were wrong with it, and I know most people love it. So for me, that's a majorly overrated film. What do you think?
In terms of overrated films, The Artist, it won the Oscar, a couple years ago. I liked the film, but I didn't think it was groundbreaking in any way. I mean, I'd seen, I went to film school. I saw a lot of black and white movies that conveyed similar, things. Hurt Locker, this is going to be unpopular. Hurt Locker, I thought was an overrated film. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was on the level of like Oscar worthy. I thought it was a good action suspense movie, but people felt like it was like a very deep and philosophically and very pertinent to the times. I didn't think that. And then we had talked about Crash on a previous episode. So those movies.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.